Now we're ready to create a new document for our adult cover. So let's click on File New. You'll notice that the settings have stayed the same from when we created our children cover, so all we need to do is name this. We don't have to change anything else. So let's name this Adult Cover. We're going to click OK. And we left our children's cover open so that we can actually come over here and we're going to reuse our flowers and our vines. So I'm going to click on the flowers. I'm going to hold down my Shift key or my Command key. I'm going to select all three layers. Using my Move tool, I'm going to click and drag from the canvas up to the Adult Cover tab and then bring my mouse down and release. I'm able to put into my document those same layers, and you'll notice that they're still in the same order, and in fact they've got the same names and everything. So I'm going to reuse those. If you recall, back in our brainstorm, we talked about the only real differences that we needed were the style of the door or the gate and possibly the typography or the text. So let's use our place command to get our second gate. File, place, gate 2. Notice I selected my background layer before I chose the place command because I want the gate to come above the background layer and behind the other elements. If you didn't do that, you can just click and drag and reorder your layer. I'm going to hit return or enter to commit to the gate, and I'm going to zoom in just a little bit on here. And I also want to rasterize my layer like I did the others by right clicking on the name of the layer and choosing rasterize layer to embed my image. Okay, you probably notice that the door looks a little crooked, and instead of having to adjust everything else on the image like the flowers and the vines, I'm going to try and adjust my door. When I took this picture, I didn't have a tripod and I didn't realize I was taking a crooked picture until after I uploaded it on my computer. So what I'm going to do, under the eyedropper tool is the ruler tool, and this is kind of neat, so Photoshop can actually straighten our images for us after the fact. And we'll even also crop the image as it's straightening it. Now if we don't want it to crop, we'd hold down our Alt key or Option key where we're going to click the Straighten Layer button, and that would keep it from cropping, but it would still straighten it. Okay, I'm going to draw a line with the ruler across the area near what should have been straight to give Photoshop an idea of what I want straightened. So I'm going to come right here in the middle. You'll notice on either side of the door there's some stonework, and we see where the indication would be that it would be a straight line, and we've also got those lines on the door. So I'm going to click and drag across that area to show Photoshop what I want straightened. So here's my line. Now on my options panel, I just click Straighten Layer, and you'll notice that the door was adjusted. Let me undo that with a Control Z or Command Z so that you can see the difference. Here, I'll just come back over to my history panel, and I'm going to go back up to Rasterize Layer and come back down again. So you see it's a subtle difference, and notice it says it's Free Transform It. We actually used the ruler tool in the Straighten Layer, but Photoshop's determining that Free Transform. So subtle difference, but it looks a lot better. Okay, so now we've got our gate 2, which looks a little bit more adult, looks like it maybe, lends itself to be scary, so we might have some things we can do with this. And we just need to do some adjustments like we did in the children's cover with the placement of our flowers and maybe the sizing of our flowers and with our vines. So let's start with the flowers layer. I'm going to use my Control T or Command T for my Free Transform. Let me move down just a little bit. And I'm going to make my flowers larger, so I might just drag them out from the corner here so I can go in 2 different directions at the same time. I'm going to commit to that with my Enter key or my Return key. That looks pretty good. And then on my vines, I think I might want to make those a little longer. So I'm going to select both layers at the same time, and I'm going to do the Free Transform, and I'm going to stretch those out. And because I have both layers selected at the same time, both layers are being transformed. Okay, and I'm going to press my Enter or my Return key. Let me resize this back to full screen with my hand tool, double clicking. Just as we did before, we could go back into our gate layer, in this case gate 2, and we could also Free Transform that to make the door wider. And I think we've got enough vines there at the top that we don't really need to make it taller, but you could also drag it up if you wanted to hide more of the entrance with the vines. And in this case, we also have so many flowers at the bottom where we can't even see the step. Let me go ahead and hide the flowers layer. We could adjust those flowers down so we can give some illusion to the step. Let's take a look and see what that would look like. And I think I actually like them all hidden better. We're looking at a different audience. We're looking at adults, young adults, and hiding the path completely probably wouldn't deter a person of that age. And they could obviously see the door, and this door does stand out from the rest of the fence. And I'm thinking, you know, because the age group and things, it probably wouldn't deter anybody from going to the door, even if it was blocked by flowers. And now it's actually looking like it may have been a longer period of time before anyone's been to this door and gone through it. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that completely covered where we can't even see the path. Although I do want to hide that white area at the bottom. There we go. Okay, so we've got our gate all set up and we've got our flowers and our vines. So now we just need to work on our typography, adding our text, just like we did on the children's cover. So we could go back over to our children's cover. We could grab these two layers as well. I'm holding down my Shift key. And I'm going to drag these over to the adult cover and bring them down. This has just saved me typing time. Because remember, I can come back in here and select individual layers. I'm still in my typography layout for my workspace. And I can come up here and change the style of my font. Now you can work from the character panel, or we can also select the type tool on the tools panel and work from the options panel or the options bar. I'm going to go ahead and use the drop down menu for the font on the options panel so that we can see the whole thing and I don't have to worry about anything being cut off for you. You of course can use the character panel. It's the same thing. I'm going to click on my menu and we want to look for something that would be a little bit more ominous or scary to change the feel of the book. The font we were using before for the children's looked like it could be friendly, engaging, obviously not scary. Let's try Charlemagne. We get a little jaggeds on the letters. Remember, we're going to change our colors, so try to not let those influence you. That doesn't make it either. It looks almost like an invitation. Now, an invitation style wouldn't be bad if it was something that looked more like a Halloween invitation where you'd have a scarier font, but not something that would look more like, you know, going to a wedding or a birthday party. Okay, that doesn't work. Okay, this one here at the bottom, Vijaya, that might work. Let's take a look at it. And we're going to go ahead and change our colors. So we want something a little darker. I'm going to click on my color. And I'm going to go maybe to a brown color. And right now it's being hidden by that stroke, so let me expand my styles. Those came over as well when I brought them from the children's cover. I'm going to double click on stroke. And let's first just turn off the drop shadow on the stroke. And we can see what the brown letters look like with that font. I'm going to select stroke. This one obviously has to be thinner and on the outside because of the size of the font. And for a color, I probably want to go with something bright. So maybe I can click on my color picker and come down here and get that pink from the flowers. And let me click OK. Oh, that looks a lot better. Let me even go to a little thinner on that. Maybe get down to a 2. There we go. Looks a lot nicer. And on my drop shadow, I'm going to change that. Oh, it's already looking brown. That works for me. We can maybe go a little deeper. That looks like maybe a maroony or reddish brown. And I'm going to click OK. So that actually looks pretty good. Let me adjust that on my door. We could probably go larger than this, or maybe even we could change so that it's not upper and lower case. Over on our character panel, you see these rows of T's down here. And you have an option to add a faux bold, make it a little bit thicker. That makes it a little bit more legible. Remember, we're thinking of our design principles as well. Our contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. Proximity is already taken care of when it comes to our placement of our title, and we can leave that in the door area like we did on the children's cover. And to work on contrast or emphasis, let's try and go over here and let's choose the one that changes it to all caps. That's the third set of T's. It's a double T there. And that, I think, makes it look a little nicer. I'm going to turn that off and turn it back on. And to me, that looks a little bit more bold. It stands out more. And I usually am not a person that really likes all caps all the time, but it seems to work in this case. It certainly looks a lot better than not having the all caps, especially for the style and the audience that we're going for.
Now you also have the option up here on your character panel where you can set the leading. The leading lets you adjust the distance between the words.
I believe our font size was around 72, so if we chose a lower number than that, you can see where we start to reduce the spacing between the words. And when it's on auto, it's going to do it based on the size of the font, so that spreads them out. We also can change the height of our letters. So let me try 150%, and you can see how that stretches the words out and the height of the letters. And we can even make them wider if we wanted to. And I think I'm probably not going to do that because I don't want to go wider than the door. Let me adjust this again, and I'm a little wider than the door. So let me try turning off that faux bold. And actually the faux bold being off makes the letters look a little bit more on a scary style than when they have the bold on them. And let me go ahead and change the height here manually. Let's try 86 to stretch out the distance between the words. And that looks a lot better. And we could even go a lot larger if we wanted to with our text by manually typing in higher than the 72, since 72 was our highest number. But it actually looks pretty good. Okay, let's collapse our styles for the Secret Garden, and let's go to the author's name. Again, this color isn't going to work for me because, again, our audience has changed. We're looking for more of an adult, and the author's name now could become more important to an adult reader. Oftentimes, at least for myself, when I read a book and I find that I like it, I go back to see if that author's written anything else. So we may want to make this author's name stand out more than it did for the child. So we could change the placement of this name. We could put it to the top of our cover, where oftentimes very popular authors, their names become even sometimes larger than the title of the book, and they're often placed at the top. So let's make this text larger. Now we can't go too large unless we go into 2 lines because it is a 3-name author. There we go. And let's change the color of our name. Let's see what white looks like. I'm not sure how it's going to work with the text up there. Oh, that actually looks pretty good. It comes out pretty good. And we're going to go into our styles. Remember, we have the styles from the previous cover because we just copied our text over or dragged our text over. Let's go into the stroke and let's change the color of our stroke. We might try again to duplicate the same color that we used on our other stroke. Let me go down to the flower area. So we have some repetition, and that does make the name pop really well. The only problem I'm noticing is I think we're losing the feel for the name of the book, so it looks like we're going to have to change that font. And we might not want to keep white because it does stand out so much, and now to me it's looking more like a romance novel than more of a scary type book. So let's change the font. I'm going to do it again for my options panel so that we don't get caught off here on our list. You, of course, can use your character panel. And let me go down to go script. Loses its legibility. Again, we want the author's name to stand out so that it's readable. Let's try Verdana. And again, because of the font, the size became too large, so I'm going to try that. And I reduced the size down to 30. And now our stroke looks like it's too thick. So I'm going to go back into my styles panel, and I'm going to reduce the size of my stroke. And that looks a little nicer. Let's go into our color overlay, and let's see if we choose another color. Let's maybe choose an off-white. So let's go into like a dingy colored white towards the grays to see if that helps tone down the name but still let it stand out. Let me double click on my zoom tool to zoom in real tight, and let's go up to the title and to the author's name. And they both stand out pretty well against their background. And the author's name, I'll go back to fill the screen. The author's name still stands out quite a bit, but again, it doesn't stand out so much that we start to lose the feel of the intent of our book, which was more of a ominous type, scary type book. Okay, let me go ahead and collapse those styles. And what else can we do to the book? We can go into our filters and really start to play with it. So let's do that in our next section. We'll do that to both covers.